Okay, everybody, here he is, talking about the trap man himself, Annie Banani.
Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new AP Ferg album, Always Strive and Prosper. AP Ferg, New York rapper, part of the ASAP mob, and you don't even know. For the past several months, I have been praying every night to the Trap Lord that this album would be good. My relationship with Ferg has not always been a positive one. My first introduction to him was in 2012 on A$AP Rocky's breakout mixtape, where he had what I thought was the worst feature on the entire tape on the song Kissin' Pink. But just not too much later, he drops this album, Trap Lord, that I thought was going to be terrible, and lo and behold, I liked it a lot. The songs Work and Let It Go and Shabba. The album featured all of these trap-flavored bangers, but also had an eerie quality to the instrumentals, and Ferg on top of them was really eccentric and animated and sort of out of his mind. And the occasionally goofy, off-key singing on the album I even thought was entertaining. Oh, let me sing my song. At times he reminded me of Bone Thugs, at times he reminded me of like ODB, but he also had his own personal quirks too. He followed this project up with a free mixtape that I thought was pretty decent. There were a few changes of pace on this thing though. He was getting some bigger names to feature, and there were spots on here where he was rapping over like these EDM style instrumentals, and some of those same sounds do show up here on this new album too. They're actually much more prominent on this record, I think. I get the impression that Ferg is really trying to make a very commercial album on this one, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I assume that's kind of the whole plan of ASAP Mob to begin with, and it certainly worked for A$AP Rocky when he transitioned from Live Up ASAP to Long Live ASAP, which was kind of like a bigger, more commercial version of his original mixtape and had some huge hits on it. But going blatantly commercial, I don't think has worked out in the same way with Ferg here. Ferg to me seems more like a wild card. He doesn't have that slick delivery or that knack for an incredibly catchy song like Rocky does, or at least did, because his last album was such a dud for me. This album is filled with these candy-coated attempts at making something super melodic, super catchy, and it only ever comes out as annoying. The introductory track is kind of like a perfect taster of what is to come. It seems like some kind of mutated take on something that Kendrick Lamar would have done better, with a bunch of wild background vocals and weird flows. Ferg is essentially trying to send the message that he is changing, he's reinventing himself here, and the first instance of that is on the song Hungry Ham, which features an incredibly obnoxious Hungry Ham. Lyrically, the song is a tribute to his home block, but the really gaudy beat from Skrillex doesn't really match the gritty descriptions in his lyrics. The whoop whoop synths aren't really doing him any favors either. The song Strive featuring Missy Elliott is easily top 5, one of the worst songs I've heard this year. You can be tonight, you can be tonight. Ferg's goofy singing voice is being plugged into what's essentially like a hip house song, and it goes over... It doesn't go over at all. It's completely tasteless, especially as Ferg pulls out this little vocal ad-lib, ow, ow, ow. And then these weird lyrics about Ben and Jerry's and his Uncle Terry, and it's so sweet. It's sickening. It's so bad, it's not even worth sticking around for the decent Missy Elliott verse in the second half. Songs like Psycho seem like the Ferg that we've known up until this point and seem way more personal and have a stronger element of storytelling. The track is all about Ferg's unruly and very violent uncle. And even though lyrically I think the song Let It Bang is a little general, the Schoolboy Q feature on this track is fine, and it's just a gritty, hard-hitting tune. And as far as highlights, that's it. Everything goes downhill from here, and it had been going downhill since like the first track. We have the song New Level with Future, and when this single dropped last year, I forgot about it. I didn't even remember it existed. It was like I was listening to it for the first time again, and believe me, I'm going to forget about it again in a few months. I'm on a new level! The hook is okay, the future feature is so-so. The best thing about this track is kind of the lumbering beat with these synth horns that are just alright. While the song Swipe Life features one of the worst flows on the entire record. Usually Ferg at least comes through with an eccentric or a silly or a very imaginative flow. Not really the case on this album, or at least when he does come through with an eccentric flow, it mixes in a really toxic way with these electronic banger beats. It's kind of like bleach and ammonia. You just don't want to breathe in these fumes. The concept of this song, which does feature Rick Ross, is like you swipe your card and then you get stuff, which, I mean, I hope it's a debit card. You know, you don't want to be putting all this stuff on credit and you can't pay for it later. You know, you think some of these guys on the corner are ruthless? Try a debt collector. Suddenly, the album just goes conscious hip-hop for a moment. On the song Beautiful People, A$AP Ferg goes full Marvin Gaye, what's going on this track, with a very soulful instrumental. And even though lyrically the song doesn't really match with much of what Ferg is saying on the rest of the record, the thoughtful lyrics about positivity and brotherhood and loving one another are a nice change of pace. And Let You Go is an honest-to-God breakup song, which is not only smooth and buttery, but it's painfully corny too. And I don't know who in their right mind, dating Ferg, would sort of accept this song as an apology, considering that he did what he said he did in the song. It's kind of like the equivalent to a crayon-drawn I'm sorry card on like some computer printer paper. While the track featuring Big Sean on the album seems less like a song and more like a contest to see who can sing the worst. The song I Love You is more a Chris Brown song than it is an A$AP Ferg song, since he dominates the track from almost beginning to end. It also sticks out like the sorest of thumbs because this very slick, ultra-commercial R&B style isn't really Ferg's thing. And sticking out like a sore thumb, I guess, is kind of a weird accomplishment since the album hasn't really been consistent at all up until the end of it. And this thing is 18 tracks long. It's just jumping all over the place from beginning to end. It just feels like it has no identity. Trap Lord had a very strong identity. At least the worst tracks contributed to the character of Ferg and seemed like he was building up a portrait of himself from song to song to song. Here, it's like an identity crisis. This album seems focus grouped. We need a song for the club. We need a song for the girls. We need a banger. We need a hit. And a lot of these tracks would just be okay if you were listening to any one of them individually, but as an album, the listening experience just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and the whole thing isn't even that long. This thing isn't even 50 minutes, I believe, and it feels like it's over an hour. This thing is gaudy, the production isn't that good, the lyrics are subpar, Ferg's personality doesn't seem to be doing him the justice it did on Trap Lord. It's messy, it's disheveled, it's just not sure what it wants to do, and it's a really weak attempt at commercial success. I'm feeling a light to decent 2 on this thing. Transition! Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe or you'll die. It's just the way nature works, everybody. A$AP Ferg, always strive and prosper forever.